a professor, a mentor for the young minds, and also athletic director and head athletic trainer for San Diego Christian College. Tonight we celebrate the Far West Athletic Trainers Association Hall of Fame inductee, one of District 8's best, Carolyn Peters.
In high school, I didn't have access to an athletic trainer, so I didn't really know what athletic training was. I had access to a physical therapist, so I thought maybe that would be the route I wanted to go. Met a student in my anatomy class who was an observation student. Back then, you could sign up for 10 hours a week and come in and observe the current interns. But we had a change in head athletic trainers. Bob Moore took a sabbatical. A new head athletic trainer came in. And all of a sudden, I am in the program full go. We were working 30, 40 hours. Internships, we had to do 1,800 hours in a couple years. I was here for 3 years because I started as a sophomore and was doing that as I was competing as an athlete. Finished, graduated early, was still competing, went to grad school, decided to work in the weight room for strength and conditioning while I was getting my master's. And then my first position opened up at San Diego State. So I got both degrees at San Diego State. I was a student athlete at San Diego State. I worked at San Diego State. I spent 21 years here as an athletic trainer before having the opportunity to go to San Diego Christian College. And I've been there for 4 years and just was recently named athletic director. Influential mentors would be, first and foremost, Bob Moore, David Reeder, Carolyn Greer, Susan Lolliker, Linda Buttles. These were all men and women who set the path here at San Diego State, really setting a precedence for what a professional is and making sure that we never stopped learning, that we continued to look outside the box, that we didn't rely on machines, that we used our brain and our hands, that we could make anything happen and anything better. The women who came before me in this program really gave me an example that life balance is possible and that, going through a couple of decades of dealing with primarily men in the profession and in the coaching staffs, they were consummate professionals. And so they were great role models.
I am thoroughly honored to participate in the induction of Carolyn Peters into the Far West Athletic Trainers Association Hall of Fame. I've been associated with her since she was actually an undergrad at San Diego State University, and just watching her and her career path and all the things she has done for San Diego State, for athletic training, and for our district and our national offices. It's just amazing to me that she has endless energy and positive approach to all of these things. And what's really good is she's not just done all these things, but she's made an impact with everything, and it's always a positive impact. Throughout the years, Carolyn has been a consummate professional. She's stayed active in the association, which I mentioned before, but also she keeps on the leading edge of education. She participates in the education of our athletic training students at San Diego State University and has been a contributor all along the way. And when I think of the number of lives she's touched and made an impact on that have gone through the program, it's just amazing to me that she's touched so many lives.
My advice to recently graduated students or students that are up and coming is to continue to diversify their education. We've come a long way with evidence-based practice and research that supports things that we already do as gold standard, but we need to keep going. We need to continue to prove that athletic training is a scientific-based healthcare profession, and the more the students understand that and appreciate that and are humbled by the things that they don't know, that they need to keep looking, will make our profession that much better.
We were both intercollegiate athletes at San Diego State. Guess which one was the gymnast? Bob Moore is We've never worked next to anyone as skilled and as impactful as Bob Moore. And if any of you have never heard about him, he is someone that is just the epitome of a professional. We are both San Diego State University Distinguished Alumnus. We are both now in the FWATA Hall of Fame. And some people call it separated at birth. Right? We look at it more like, did you ever see the movie Twins? Unfortunately, I got the beginning to be no. But it is my pleasure to bring Carolyn Peters up here to present her the plaque for the Far West Athletic Trainers Association Hall of Fame for 2017.
This is a very emotional moment for you, Sleeping Girl. It's my pleasure, as every year I get to do this, FWATA gives all the Hall of Fame members a ring, okay? I wear mine every day. People ask me, is that a Super Bowl ring? I said, no. A Super Bowl ring is about a season. This ring is about a career. And so, Carolyn, I get to ring you, my dear. I know that you're going to wear this with pride, and because you just don't know how much it means to me to be able to give this to my dear, dear friend, Carolyn. Anyway, come here, let me ring you, girl.
As most of you know, I'm rarely at a loss for words, and rarely am I emotional, but those that know me know that I take my service very seriously, and so this is quite an honor. Every time I tried to write something for tonight, I started to cry, so I couldn't. So I wanted to thank a few people, and I'll share a few thoughts. I want to thank the Hall of Fame Committee. I want to thank Mike West, who couldn't be here tonight. He's the CATA past president who nominated me. I'd like to thank Carolyn Greer for that wonderful introduction. It was funny because when I started as a student at San Diego State, actually someone came up and said, "Is Carolyn here?" And I came to the door and then, "We want to be a student trainer." That's what they called us back then. I'm like, I think you're at the wrong school. I think you need to go towards USD. And so there I knew that the confusion could begin. And I hadn't quite known her yet. She was already established as a certified athletic trainer, and I was just a young student. But quickly understood what her contribution and impact on the profession was, and realized that I was in great company. I'd like to thank the students at San Diego State, San Diego Christian. Many students have come through and become certified athletic trainers and gone on. And I was one of my first students, Mike Miller, is in the audience, and I remember being very hard on my students because I had a very high level of expectations. And so I want to say thanks for sticking in there with me. I've come a long way. I'm not the tyrant I used to be. I don't know if it was the time. I was 24. I was in the early 90s. It was highly male-dominated as far as the coaches, and those of you who were in that era know what I'm talking about. So I held very high expectations, and so I forced my students to hold those as well, and so I'm afraid I probably discouraged some from being in the profession, but hopefully they'll look back on that and forgive me someday. Thanks for the students of San Diego State who are here tonight. There better not be any tweets or anything. What's going on right here? We have finals coming up. students from San Diego Christian come through and go on to graduate school, so I'm very proud of them. We don't have a degree at San Diego Christian, but I've been able to mentor a few students, so I'm very proud of that. I'd like to thank the faculty and preceptors at San Diego State. Being a student athlete at San Diego State, a strength coach at San Diego State, staff member, I'm an Aztec for life. And the AT alumni in that organization for that university has been very supportive. I'd like to, I'm not going to get to these two tables yet, but one of my common phrases is, and if you know me, you probably heard this, is we all make choices. We all make choices. That is something that I hold very true, and I try to wake up every morning and say that to myself, and I choose on what path I intend to take. And it always isn't easy, and it hasn't been. Sometimes the choices that are made for us allow us to determine how we react. And I use that with my students, I use that with my family, I use that with myself. We all make choices. And so I've chosen to choose the path of the profession I love. And even though I'm an athletic director now, I'm always an athletic trainer first. And people say, oh, you were promoted. And I said, no, I don't think so. I think being an athletic trainer is pretty awesome. And I just consider it more responsibility or different responsibility. So definitely not a promotion. It just gives me an opportunity to make an impact, maybe more globally in the college setting. But with those choices, I feel that we have an option to serve or not serve. And I don't know where that came from in me. I'm sure it came from my parents who have passed on. But they were both very active civically and in the church. And I just grew up with that. And so at no point in my career did I ever think, well, I'm going to do this because I see there's an award down the road, or I'm going to do this because that'll go on my resume. I don't know where all this came from, to tell you the truth. I don't know where all these years went. And when I refer to my career as decades, it's kind of surreal. I don't even get that. But for some reason, a glimpse of an eye has passed, and I've been blessed to go in the profession that I love so much and try to impact students. And the service dog training has been something that has enabled me to increase my patience, positive reinforcement, and really treat people better. And I think that's made me a better person and a better athletic trainer. So I don't want to take up too much time, but I do want to get to these two tables in front of me. So like I said, my parents have passed, and my sisters have been there for me all times. Not always understanding what I do. For many years, they referred to me as an athletic director, so I think it came full circle. Sometimes I'd get frustrated, but I learned to just love them for who they are, because they love me for who I am, because I would often be very blunt and have to get off the phone or couldn't be there, and I miss a lot of family functions, and I've got many nieces and nephews who have joined me here today, and although I've never been blessed with my own children, I feel that these are my own. Cool. And that sometimes a mama bear has to come out, and they've seen sometimes my high expectations for them, and sometimes I've had to interact a few times, but thank you guys for always being patient and loving me and treating me like being an aunt is different. It's awesome, and I got to tell you, when the Hawaii members call me auntie, it's probably the best thing that's ever happened to me. And then I have my friends and my best friends who came from Virginia. That's a big deal to me, to travel across the country to spend one night watching me blubber in front of you. And my cousins from Arizona. My favorite uncle, thanks. My favorite uncle's son and his wife have been a huge part of my family. So in closing, I would just thank you for this award. I did not intend to completely lose it up here. But it's to think about the people who have come before me, and I can list the names, but you know who you are. You've had a huge impact on me. Bob Moore, and Carolyn Greer, and David Reeder, Susan Lolliker,
Thank you for the friendships of Denise Lepsack and the staff at San Diego State. I seriously don't know where this came from. And not the blubbering, but the service. I felt a need, and I got in position, and I just did what I knew I needed to do, and I did what I love to do. So, to the students out there, continue to follow your passion. Find things that you enjoy. Don't make your life just about athletic training. I didn't have a female right in front of me. Carolyn was at a different college, a different university, and I didn't have somebody right in front of me to teach me how to balance that life, and so I think I struggled a couple of decades, and I think I sacrificed a lot, including time with my family. So find a passion that you enjoy and try to merge that with the things that you love. And so if it means loving photography and videography and finding a way to mesh that with athletic training, then do it. I use service dogs as part of a way to provide therapy for my student athletes and staff. And I would have one with me, but it's a little too young to travel right now, so maybe at NATA or next year for sure. And for this, again, to the students, I just challenge you to get involved, appreciate your history from where we came from. This organization started in the back of Bill Chambers' backyard with some Coors Light. I did his video for his award earlier, and it was asked how I met him, and I basically forced myself on him because I knew he was someone that I needed to know, and he didn't know me, and I wasn't anybody, and I still don't consider myself anybody. I'm just a servant leader. And so I just encourage you students to find those mentors out there and force yourself on them and make sure that they know who you are, make an impact, always be professional, always treat those around you with kindness and love, and don't forget where you came from, but don't forget who you are, and make good choices.